Hello, this is the Casual Author Podcast. I'm Dan Kenner, sci-fi and fantasy author. I've got a few things on my plate, as do you, and I want to help you be productive and have a positive mindset as you navigate your passion for writing while managing life's expectations. For more information about the podcast or to access my free guide, How to Have the Most Stellar Writing Sessions, head to thecasualauthor.com. Let's dive in. Hey there, it's Dan Kenner with another episode of The Casual Author. Today is Friday, December 12th, 2025 as I record this, and this is episode number 159 of the podcast. Today's going to be a little bit of a continuation from the podcast a couple weeks ago with Charles Hack. He talked about using 15-minute increments when he's scheduling things out, and that's how he manages to get a lot done despite having a very busy life. So this is a little bit of I guess you could say a pantser spin on that 15-minute breakdown. They're just principles that I don't know if they're like universal or what, but they apply ever since I've applied them to my life. I've been able to make more progress, measurable progress on the things that I'm trying to accomplish. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. This is once again a solo episode. I think right now I'm still trying to figure out the best way to schedule interviews with people. I keep getting a bunch of pitches, but they're for authors that don't necessarily fit within the scope of the podcast. I'm generally pretty accepting of anyone, but some of these authors are a little bit, their focus is more on them related, focusing on their books, and that's okay. This might just not be the podcast for them. So if you're listening and you're like me and you've got a lot going on and you still are just striving and doing your best to write and publish and eventually make your way to being a full-time author, great. That's where we want to be. Those are the things that we want to talk about. So if you're listening, you're an author and you have input, whether or not you find it valuable, I guarantee it's more valuable than you think. Definitely reach out and join me on the podcast. You can email me at dan@thecasualauthor.com or just head to thecasualauthor.com and fill out the pitch form there. I'd love to have you. And yeah, really seeking more of those opportunities to chat with people. So in terms of updates, so we'll go and dive into those things. I will say that maybe we'll start with the Homestead family, just because that's generally where I begin. This week has been a little bit interesting because we've had a crazy warm spell. I won't go too much into geography, but Idaho Falls is generally colder than the rest of Idaho, or many parts of Idaho. It's just in this really strange cold pocket up into like a little bit further north, 30 minutes north, and even slightly further north. It just gets bitter cold about this time, but it's been so warm. It's record-breaking warm, actually, I'm finding out. So it feels like spring. We're getting like 50 degrees, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's mid-December. I will say I like it. It's nice. It feels like a little bit of like a gift, but at the same time, I'm a little worried because we haven't been getting as much moisture as I know we need. Kind of hope it starts snowing soon, or at least raining, and, everyone wishes for a white Christmas, and it definitely would be nice to have that. But in the meantime, that has given us a little bit of wiggle room with respect to the animals. Getting their de-icers in their waters has proven a little bit more difficult than I expected. We just have to do a lot of thinking around the cows, because after doing research and discovering that cows eating cords is very common, just for those of you who may be new to the conversation, our yearling, our calf that's a year old now, he consumed, we looked at it, it's about 6 feet of cord. He just ate it up and swallowed it. He's fine so far, haven't seen any health implications, but learning that if they have access to even a little bit, it will be their mission in life to get access to that and eat it. So you can't even have like a little bit exposed to them. And that's where we're struggling a little bit, because we thought through all different ways and have it come up the wall here and protect it this way or cover it with PVC pipe. Like we thought about all sorts of things. If they chew through PVC pipes, that won't work. Even if there's like a little bit of exposure, then that won't work. We're looking at having to put the water near the fence so the cord can come right out the back. But even then, got to figure out a way to block it off in the water, because he'll stick his nose in and dig it out. So anyway, it's proving more difficult than we expected. The pigs, their water's fine. I was able to get that fixed. That had broken in the cold weather. They have a de-icer now, but they're generally hard on things. So anyway, just kind of taking this warm week to see if we can figure out how to make it work. Then other than that, homestead problems are just hilarious, right? Like this is like first world problems. Take it for what it is. But we've been struggling with the chickens not laying their eggs where they're supposed to. Now, this may sound funny, right? But there's certain instances where, sure, it can be kind of fun. Send the kids out for an Easter egg hunt. They have a blast with it. But when those eggs end up landing or being laid in places where they shouldn't, they get a bunch of dirty crap on the outside of the eggs. Excuse my language. When your eggs are really dirty, in theory, you don't have to wash them. If you're familiar with the structure of the egg, I'll give you a little bit of information about that. When eggs are laying, they actually have this outer layer. It's like a protective layer called the bloom. You can look it up. That bloom keeps bacteria from going in and out of the egg, so it protects them. So you don't technically need to wash them. They are clean. You don't need to refrigerate them. You can leave them out on the counter. The reason store-bought eggs are refrigerated is because they get washed and pasteurized. So that removes that protective layer and bacteria can pass in and out, which is why you have to refrigerate them. Despite that, when you get a chicken egg that is covered in chicken manure, that is not appetizing. No one wants to deal with that. So we'll wash them. But I say it's not my favorite thing to wash off disgusting eggs. So that's the trouble we're having. We have this dedicated place where they're supposed to go in and lay their eggs, but they don't. And there's a specific breed of chicken. There are these ones that we got from the store here. We usually buy them from like either a distant or local hatchery, so it's not from like a chain farm store. We got a few of them from a chain farm store, and they're the culprits. They used to fly out of the pen. We had to clip their wings so they couldn't fly out of their pen. And then they're the ones that lay outside of their nesting boxes. And then, of course, the other chickens see eggs in their coop, where they're pooping a lot. And so that's what's happening. So anyway, fun story. At the end of the day, we're grateful for the eggs. We'll wash them just to keep everything safe. That's what we do. But what we're having to do now is we have to set alarms on our phone, and we have to close their coop so they can't go in it. They won't lay outside, which is great. They'll lay in their nesting boxes, but we have to close it and open them, which is close and open the coop, which is counterintuitive because we have this fancy sensor light that will open and close the door automatically. Fortunately, we can't use that unless we accept these really dirty eggs. So, yeah, it's funny. First world problems for sure, but that's what we're experiencing this week. I think it drives my wife more crazy than me. I just kind of deal with it. It's one of those things where it's not great, but I deal with it. So, other than that, the kids' their choir practice ended, which I will say is great. They had a blast, but one less thing on the calendar is always awesome. But then 3 of our boys started archery about a month and a half ago, so they go do archery twice a week. We made them commit to practicing at least once a week on top of their practice or their class, and then they do have competitions. So those are coming up in January. We'll be driving a little bit around outside of Idaho to go down to these national competitions. I think they'll have a blast. They're very excited about it. But yeah, just more things. I won't go into too much detail, but I've never really talked much about this. I won't go into, like I said, too much detail, but having some doctor problems. So long story short, our 5th child, she's 5 years old now. She has some disease. We don't know what it is, but it affects her ability to walk. She has leg pain. She has joint pain. Like, she's not growing normally. And we've been to, I don't know, at least a dozen different doctors, all of whom say, she's fine, she'll grow out of it. And she's not growing out of it. Spoiler alert. She's not growing. So mentally, she's fine. She's developing normally on that front, but physically, she just really is behind and just having a hard time getting doctors to back us. And we've tried all sorts of different things. We're now to genetic testing because they've tried some really rare genetic tests. Those have come back negative. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. We've had a run around with the insurance, and I just say it because it's one of those things that consumes my ability to write and be creative because just the logistics of trying to get this diagnosis figured out without doctors being there to actually help and listen has been challenging. So anyway, hopefully we'll have some testing done soon. If that I tell people kind of jokingly, it's a little bit of a dark joke, but we may have a disease named after us. There may be a Kenner disease here at some point if it's something that's never been discovered before. I don't know, we'll see. But so that's kind of consuming some brain power. Other than that, everything else is pretty stable. Animals are happy. They seem to be healthy. The breeding seemed to go fine for Lucy. We'll check her. We'll do like a preg check. That's what they call it here soon to know if it took, and hopefully it did. If it did, then we'll be having another calf at the end of September of next year. The other thing I will say, I guess I didn't go. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. But there's some more kind of challenges around mastitis and different bacterias. But maybe I'll go into more detail next week just to try to keep this a little bit of a reasonable podcast episode. I could go into so much more detail, but sometimes I wonder if people actually need it or want it. So, in terms of productivity, I will say that this week was a good week, and this will play into the topic of discussion for today. Really big milestones, which I need to just remember to sit back and appreciate. I'm one of those people who, because of the nature of just busy, do, I don't often sit and celebrate something. What I'm needing to celebrate is the publishing of Dwarf Blooded. So if you've been following me for a while, I had this idea for a 6-book YA fantasy series. This is book 3 of that 6-book series. It's been completed for quite a while. The actual first draft, got the edits done finally, and then just ran into a bunch of roadblocks with life and other priorities. So I'm actually about 3 months late publishing it. It was supposed to come out in September. Grateful, not complaining. Great, it's out in December. So December 16th, which is actually tomorrow by the time this podcast comes out, if you're listening, that it will be available. So it'll be available on Amazon and all the various places. You can buy it directly from my website, dankenner.com. So in print and digital format. So that's exciting. It's a milestone. It's something that I've been wanting to get out, and I'm excited that you can get that now. That's half the series. I will say that the book took a very unexpected turn in a good way. The ending kind of shocked me. It's great as a pantser to be surprised by the ending. And my editor even messaged back and was just like, "What? That is crazy. Didn't expect that. How are you going to continue on?" Let me tell you, it works. The pantsing brain somehow works because books 4 and 5 are written, and I'm about 25% through 6, and it's panning out pretty well. It's a little bit crazy what's happening, but grateful for that. So just celebrating the win, publishing of Dwarf Blooded. If you have questions, please let me know, but that's great. So what that means that I need to start working on the next book. I've already done some edits. I need to get that prepared to send over to the line editor, so that book can then get into the pre-publishing phase. So it's an advantageous that I've written most of the book, but I just need to keep up that pace with writing. I continue to write the next month's short story. This one, I won't go into too much detail because it's not finished yet, but it is more sci-fi than I expected. It's definitely something that I've not really dipped my toes into too much. I read a lot of sci-fi, but to date, I've been a little bit nervous to get into sci-fi just because of my challenge with explaining space or these technical concepts, futuristic concepts. I just worry that I'm missing the mark there, but this has been really fun. It's been interesting, and I don't know, I think you'll really like it. So that's next month's short story. That'll be January, really my first one with a sci-fi spin. I guess I did write another sci-fi. It was kind of like a sci-fi mystery with like a dangerous disease, bacteria disease. So that one was more sci-fi, but I think that one was a little bit more like dystopian. This one is definitely grounded in sci-fi. So that's fun. I think it's great. Having a blast writing it. So that's going on. But then there's just like the post and pre-published logistics, getting the pricing, the keywords, making sure all your files are prepared and uploaded. So from an organization perspective, I struggle. My files are all over the place. This is something that my wife stepping in and helping will hopefully solve for because she's much more organized. But yeah, if it's not in the cloud somewhere, I struggle to find it, and that's my own problem, I'll say that. So that's great, celebrating that. My website is also getting fixed. I mentioned last week about how my website had some strangeness, inability to purchase certain books. I have tamed those issues. You should be able to now, and now with Dwarf Blooded coming out, you should be able to buy those as well. So look forward to more updates there. And of course, I appreciate you. If you've read any of my books and you haven't put a review on Amazon or Goodreads, I definitely would appreciate that. That obviously that helps authors very much when we get those reviews. I try to always review books, particularly for indie authors that I read. So always grateful for you. Let's see, starting to look into Shopify. So I won't go into too much detail here because I haven't gone in, but Shopify seems to be the go-to for direct selling. I know that, well, if you're a new author and you're listening, you think, okay, I hear a lot of authors direct selling their books. It's challenging. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's the logistics, the pages, the syncs, the integrations between different systems. I don't want to scare you away. Just know that it will be challenging. To date, I've been using PayHip. If you go to dankennerbooks.com, you'll see that that's actually a PayHip site. PayHip is free, and so they actually take a decent percentage of every sale you make, and that's how they pay for it. That's how you pay for it. But the UI is not great. It's maybe not the best experience. So I want to shift over to Shopify because that tends to be the better grounded experience. It's a little expensive though, so I'll say that. I think ultimately the goal is to be able to make up the cost of Shopify with sales, either direct or from other retailers like Amazon or Google Books. But yeah, that's kind of the first step. So looking at configuring Shopify, before I get there, I have to really put together all of my books. I'm to the point where Dwarf Blooded is my 11th book. Sure, I co-authored 3 of them and I don't actually have ownership of those. The publisher does. I'll still be posting those. I just can't sell them direct very well. But, when you start to get up into the double-digit books, it's like you change one thing, and it's like, I have to go back to all of those books and change those. Not a problem. It's just this would be great for a secretary or someone or like an assistant to be able to do these things. I don't have those. I'm doing them myself, but that's okay. So, yeah, I guess that's the perfect segue into the discussion. And that to me is approaching the 15-minute interval conversation, the productivity conversation that Charles brought up a couple weeks ago. He just got a little bit of a recap. He specifically says he plans out his days in 15-minute intervals, including sleep. He'll plan in 15-minute intervals for sleep. For the entire night. He'll just block them out that way. I guess that works for him. To me, that sounds like a logistic nightmare. I know that there are planners listening. If you are a type A personality and you're listening, you think, oh, that sounds so great. I'm going to plan every 15 minutes. That's amazing. Awesome. Do that. Do that if it works for you. I think where a lot of us might struggle with that is sometimes life is unstructured and it's not by nature of any decisions you make, or it's just kind of a reaction to the influences you have in your life. And that's kind of how my life is to date. I do have a pretty standard work day. I try to work, from about 9 to 5:30. That's usually what works. But my wife takes kids to appointments, so she'll leave me with kids in the middle of the day. Kids get sick. I sometimes have really bad nights where I don't get enough sleep. Sometimes I have a hard time getting up in the morning because, 5:30 it's pretty early. And if I've only gotten 4 hours of sleep the night before, 5:30 is not very easy or probably shouldn't happen, right? So my days are kind of volatile. I never really know what's going to be set. And so for me, that underpins 2 things, right? For me, already knowing I struggle to plan, knowing that making a plan will just be derailed by all of these reactionary forces, it kind of deters me from wanting to actually plan. So that's one thing. 2, I get kind of bored. I'll say that. Planning is boring to me. So that's the other thing that I struggle with is sitting down and actually making a plan just because my brain would rather be doing something else. That's an ADHD thing. So you may be listening and think, well, that's not my problem. I don't have that problem. That doesn't matter. The principle that I'm about to describe has more to do with taking advantage of small moments productively when they come up in your schedule. So let me explain what I do as a pantser. So you may already do this, and if this is not news to you, then that's amazing. One thing that I think a lot of authors struggle with is when we inadvertently or purposefully assign a completion time to something, we know how much is going to go into that. For example, I know I need to catch up on my finances in my author business. I actually did that. This is just an example. I did that last week. But let's say I need to document all of my transactions. I need to make sure that I'm keeping track of my income, outcome, my expenses, and figure out what my author income looks like this month. Let's say I've done this in the past. I know it's going to take me an hour. If I don't have an hour block, then I have a hard time doing it because in my mind, I think I have this assignable hour of time, and if I don't have a block for it, when am I going to do that, right? That can be applied to anything. Let's say I need to update my book descriptions. I haven't estimated in my brain that this is going to take me 30 minutes. I don't often have a 30-minute window. And so there's just a little bit of a disconnect there. Sometimes it feels overwhelming when you know the time to complete something is far above what blocks you have throughout the day. And so the way I have to approach it instead is I like to think of it as like an available bucket of tasks and then allow it to be melded into the available time that I have during the day. So on a good day, I get up on time, I exercise, I have a good 30 minutes for something authory before I get into chores and breakfast and work and all the crazy things. So in that time, I generally use that for writing because 30 minutes of writing, it fluctuates in terms of productivity, but at least it's there. I'm taking 30 minutes of time. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes we're sick. Sometimes I don't get up on time. And so that block kind of disappears. Well, what I'm left with is other little bits of time. So let's say I happen to finish breakfast early and I get an extra 10 minutes before I actually have to get to work. That's 10 minutes. 10 minutes of time that I can spend doing something on this available list of tasks. So what that list means is, okay, these are the next steps on whatever project that I'm working on. So let's say I'm writing a new book, or let's say I'm updating descriptions. I already mentioned that. Let's say there's finances. There's all sorts of options, updating my website, creating an image for social media. Regardless of how much time that takes, I've ordered those things in terms of priority. Like, these are the things that I want to get done next. They may or may not have due dates. I don't really operate off of due dates just because I can't always meet those expectations. But in that ordered list, I know that, hey, when a little block, whether it be 5 minutes pops up or 30 minutes pops up, I know that this is my next step. I'm going to essentially slot that in there and start working towards that. Wherever I get, I work until I hit that point, and then I set it back aside to the top of the list. And I just keep pulling that thing into these little blocks of time and making those little bits of progress until I can complete that item, and then I move the next one up. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, that's logical. Everybody does that. But I think the way I think about it is it's less so to do with like a plan. It's not really necessarily a formal plan. It's in the moment. These are the things that I know. It's almost like this. It's like pick the one thing that you need to get done today. A lot of people will say you pick one thing you need to get done, and by the end of the day, you make sure you get that done. It's similar to that, right? The top of that list, whether it be 5 things or 10 things, that is the thing that, from an author perspective, I want to get done that day. And I just pick at it, right? It's just like chipping away at it in these little 5-minute intervals, 10-minute intervals as I find them throughout the day. The biggest challenge with this is being able to train your brain to be able to handle it. At first, if you attempt this, you might feel frustrated because there's kind of a lag time between this code switching. You're switching from one task to another task. There's brain power that's consumed, and sometimes it can take someone up to 30 minutes to even get into their next task. That's normal. If you're listening, you're like, oh, I can't switch tasks that quickly. That's okay. It's actually pretty common. But what you can do is you can train your brain to be able to pick up on something and set it aside. It's a muscle that you can exercise. So I think what helped me get to that point was having that streamlined list in my brain, or written down if you need to write it down. And every time I hit a moment where I'm like, oh, I actually have a few minutes, taking a look and grabbing that item and sitting it in front of me and saying like, okay, what can I do in 5 minutes that will help me work towards whatever this thing is? And I will say for the first couple months, it didn't work. I sat there for a second like, okay, I know I need to work on this thing, but I don't know like what minute part I can work on. And so, yeah, for the couple months, it was more just like taking the time to think about it. I would sit aside, take 5 to 10 minutes, think it through, and not actually make progress. But like, okay, I tried, set it aside. It was really when I got used to that exercise of, oh, there's a break. I have an opportunity to pull something in. My brain now can flip and say, oh, yeah, I know exactly where I left off. Here I left off. Write a few sentences, move things around, adjust the image, download it, test it, and then, oh, time's up, put it back aside and come back to it. So you just got to practice it and exercise it. Another thing that helped me get to that point is reading. So if you're listening and you like to read, I would wager you probably do to some degree. A lot of authors like to read. Sometimes it's hard to stop, right? If you're in an exciting book, you just want to keep reading through. You want to skip whatever that meeting is. You want to stay up all night and read. And that's actually pretty common because it's exciting. I've actually learned that to consume reading in little bits and to be able to set it aside, even if it's in the middle of an intense moment, I'd be like, oh, you know what? Like, it's going to be there when I get back. By setting it aside and focusing on something else, it's not going to go away. By the time I get back, that action will still be happening. I can just put it on hold and come back to it. And a lot of people can't do that. I think when you realize that by pausing, you're not stopping progress, you're just putting it aside temporarily, you kind of lose that worry that you're not going to get back into it. As long as you know that, hey, in my next committed 5-minute block, 20-minute block, I'm going to pick this back up and continue where I left off, then you really get used to that. So if I look at each minor session that I take, the progress is very minimal. And you might feel frustrated. You might look at today and say, I really effectively only spent a combination of 25 minutes on X thing, and this thing's going to take me 6 hours. Well, the alternative is not working on it at all, or waiting until your schedule opens up, which if you're like me, that doesn't happen very often. I can't always take a day off of work to write. I can't always set aside a Saturday to work on author things because, all the kids, they need attention. There's a house to run. There's a lot of animals to take care of. So I just can't plan on big blocks. So if you want to make measurable progress and you want to see yourself move towards your goals, I would recommend giving this a try. Write down today what are the things that are top of mind or the goals that you have to move forward with your author business. If that's writing, if that's editing something you've already written, if that's looking into setting up an author website, if that's contacting someone on Instagram to see if they're willing to do a collaboration post with you. There's all sorts of things you can do. Just whatever that next step is, or even big project, understand like today, is that the priority? Is that what needs to happen? If so, have this list either set aside on a sticky note close to you or even mentally or on your computer somewhere that says like, this is my feed-in list of tasks that I can work on. And then just try when you have quiet moments, right? I think a lot of us might fill these moments with social media, scrolling social media. If that's what you want to, if that's the highest priority, great, scroll social media. Personally, for me, it's not. It just tends to suck away those precious moments of time when I could make progress towards some of these things. Write that list. You don't even have to block out your day. Just kind of sit down and understand, do I have work calls? Do I have taking kids to activities? Do I have times when I'm doing laundry, when I might be able to listen to a podcast to, make progress towards that? And just try slotting those in throughout the day. And by the end of the day, you may feel like, okay, I didn't do a lot, but I at least made upward progress towards that thing. What you'll find is by the end of the week, those add up quite a bit. 6 hours broken into 5-minute intervals may feel like a lot at the end of the process, but when you actually put it in, you move much more quickly than you think. So yeah, just consider that and be patient with yourself. That's the other piece of it as well. You might feel frustrated if you miss the mark, or you try to take advantage of a 10-minute moment and you fall asleep, or you get so distracted that it just disappears. It's unproductive to be angry at yourself in those moments, because what that will do is train your brain to feel a certain way in those moments. You need to be able to focus on the positivity and be like, all right, well, that didn't work. What do I need to do in preparation when I have my next 5-minute, 10-minute block? In my case, I have an app blocker. It will block all of the apps. If I know I'm going to have a problem, I'll just block them. And then that won't be a problem the next time a block comes up. That was redundant. I'm using block a lot. I will block my apps so the next time I have an available period of time, however small, I'll be able to insert the productive pieces into that. So yeah, I can use the example of Dwarf Blood. It has taken me, I think I had all of the available files in the last 12 days, and it's taken until now to really feel like I've got it uploaded in all the places. I'm still having an Ingram Spark issue. I didn't go into details there, but just formatting cover files, uploading here, just trying to keep track of where I've uploaded it. And so far, it's everywhere it needs to be before next Tuesday, with the exception of Ingram Spark, which I'm solving for. So that took me a conglomeration of 12 days to fit it into these little periods here, little times there, upload it, test it. And that's okay, right? I don't worry too much about getting them done unless there's a hard deadline. I just worry about making progress towards this, feeling good about that upwards and onwards progress amidst the chaos. The last thing I will say in connection to this is you have to be really restrictive with your list. There are certain things that don't make sense during certain times of the day. For example, if one of the priority items on this list for me is writing, I can't write in the afternoon. I get too drowsy. I will fall asleep. I've tried so many times. Afternoon is not the right time for me to write, and like a little break here. Or I think morning is a very productive time for me to answer emails, or not answer emails, to write. I like to write in the morning. Afternoon is a great time for me to format things, update marketing materials, update images. And so I almost have like an afternoon, morning, evening list that's like, okay, this is the next thing that my brain can handle at this given time. So you may have to break it out like that. And if you know that your brain will work specifically at different times of the day, just account for that. And you may make more progress on some things because you happen to have more blocks in the evening, or you happen to have more blocks in the morning. It just kind of depends on you. But I'd recommend going about it that way, attempting it, and see how you feel. If you have any feedback Or if you disagree, please let me know. I'd love to hear your insights. If you have information like, hey, what works for you, or different moderations, not moderations, different formats of what I just described, then definitely let me know. And you just comment on the show notes on YouTube or send me an email at dan@thecasualauthor. I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, just keep going. Just keep plugging along. Be grateful for the little progress you make. Celebrate all the wins. I struggle with this. I mentioned it at the beginning, but celebrate the little wins. And I think you'll find that you'll move onwards and upwards. So I appreciate you listening. Of course, I'd love for you if you could share this with your friends and family, people who might be interested, other authors. I'd love to hear how you feel about it. If you'd like to join me, I already mentioned, there's a pitch form at thecasualauthor.com, or email me at dan@thecasualauthor.com. I'm very grateful for you and for all the listeners. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great week.